Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm bringing to you some special bonus content this season. So we're going to do some playoff prediction video. We're going to predict who's going to make the playoffs on each side, and then I'm going to predict who's going to win each side, who's going to win the World Series, and et cetera, et cetera. This video comes to you thanks to everybody that watched the power rankings this week. I set out a goal of 15 likes within the first day. We hit that over the first couple hours, and then we just kept going, and that video popped off, and it's actually the biggest one this channel's ever seen. So thanks to everyone that helped out with that. The power ranking is a big part of this channel, of course. So this bonus video, I like doing these every year anyway, but as a lot of you know, I've been around for the majority of the season. Just don't have a lot of time to make videos this year. Power ranking's always been a staple, so I make sure to do that. But hey, if I keep getting the likes, you guys are going to keep getting the content because it at least incentivizes me, because there's people out there watching it actually care. So I do appreciate that, guys. We're going to start things off with the American League. Just a quick breakdown of what I got going on here. Playoffs, we're all pumped. It's only about 2 months away because we're going to go a little bit into October with the season. That extra series getting pushed in October because of the strike. We got 6 up here, so this is the first time the MLB is putting in 3 wildcard teams. Number 1 and number 2 are going to be the best 2 division teams that I'm predicting, and those 2 teams also get first round bye. Number 3 is going to be the 3rd division team, not anything to do with record. And then 4, 5, and 6 are the wildcard teams, and that is going to be based on record. Reason why I got number 2 up here is because the winner of 3 and 6 is going to face up against number 2 no matter what. The MLB wanted to make sure that whoever finished as number 1 is guaranteed not to play a division leader in their first round. So that means number 3 and number 1 not going to be able to play in the first round. They'd have to wait till the round after that. We got a little attempt at a crown here. This is supposed to represent the champion when I kind of move them along. And I just wanted to throw some art in there for the fun of it. But without further ado, guys, let's jump into my predictions in the American League. So, number 1, this is who I think is going to finish the American League with the best record in the regular season, and they're going to be the top seed, and they're going to get that first round bye, and that's the Houston Astros. Astros have started the season with one of the easiest schedules in the league, and a lot of people were pointing at that when they were on top of their division. They're battling. But they've since then shown that they can pretty much compete with any team in this league. They've beaten the Yankees. They've beaten everyone along the way. Honestly, of all the teams that they didn't really beat along the way was the Blue Jays. But it didn't seem to matter. Houston Astros, my number 1 pick. And that goes to number 2, the other team that's going to get the bye. I got the New York Yankees. The Yankees have struggled a little bit over the past month, and when you say struggle, they're like a 500 ball club. You can't really call that a struggle, but the Yankees got a pretty good cushion. I think these 2 teams are pretty much at this point guaranteed to be the byes. I know, and nothing is guaranteed in MLB. I get it, but they got a pretty big lead and a little bit of a head start. At least with the Yankees in the American League, they got a 10-game lead over second place, and all those teams are going to be competing with each other and at least knocking games off of one another. Unless the Yankees start playing like 300 ball, I think we can expect them to pretty much be that second seed. That leads to number 3, my prediction to win the American League Central. I think they just took it over today, actually. This would have been my prediction going forward for a little while here. We got the Cleveland Guardians. Pretty much a closet team out of nowhere so far this season. But the Twins held it for a majority of the season, and they finally got dethroned. I think it was today, might have been yesterday, but they've finally been dethroned, and I don't really see the Twins being able to pull it together and get that back for them. So yeah, I do have Cleveland Guardians as number 3. So that brings us to the number 4 seed. One of the hotter teams, one of the better teams over the past few months. We got the Seattle Mariners. I got them as the number 4 seed and the top wild card team out of all the teams that we're going to be looking at. They've just come off a series win against the New York Yankees, so they got to be pretty excited about that. They brought in Luis Castillo, making some big deals. I do think there is a little bit of advantage for them against these other two teams we're going to talk about because of their division. They're going to have more games against the A's, against the Rangers, and against the Angels down the stretch that are going to allow them to bolster that record. Otherwise, I think that's pretty much it. So number 5 is going to be the team that I predict for them to play up against, and this might have changed over the past couple of weeks, but now it's being locked in because you got me on video. We got the Baltimore Orioles. If I had predicted this a month ago, it would have been shocking, but it's not as shocking now considering how they have played. The best record in the American League over the past 2 months, I think since the beginning of June. Orioles have just been on fire, and they demonstrated it against the Jays this past weekend. They're just a much better ball club than I think a lot of us gave them credit for earlier in the season. How could you not? They had a pretty crappy record, but that's what I got at number 5, and that leaves me with number 6. This one was really tough for me, and you can argue in the comments below that my bias came up a little bit, but I do have number 6 as the Toronto Blue Jays. I understand we're missing out on the Tampa Bay Rays. A lot of people might disagree with that, but I chose the Jays because I think on paper they're a much better team than the Rays, and I think they can't hold this on forever. They've been playing, in my opinion, well below their standard and what they are, and they're still holding on to that playoff spot. They're still a 550 ball club. They have 12 more games against the Orioles down the stretch, and honestly, between the Rays, Orioles, and Jays, it's going to come down to how those teams play against each other. But that's pretty much it. It might have been a little bit biased in there, and I'm not afraid to admit that. So, next up, we got to predict how it's going to play out. For me, in this first series, I think, honestly, whoever gets number 6 is at a little bit of advantage, in my opinion, because I don't think the 3 is as strong as you would see as the National League. And I would say that, in this case, the Blue Jays would pull it off and move on to face the New York Yankees. Got to remember that these are 3-game series, so with the Blue Jays, they're at least not run into their rotation depth, which has been the biggest concern for me. They'd at least be able to send out Manoah, Gosman for at least the first 2 games, and their third pitcher, is gonna be all right as well. Guardians, at the same point, do have a pretty strong top of the rotation too, so I wouldn't be surprised that the Guardians take this one, but my prediction is going to be the Blue Jays. That brings us to number 4 versus 5, and these guys have battled, and Seattle has had Baltimore's number so far this season, and I would have to give them, again, the edge here to take out the Orioles and move on to face their division rival, the Houston Astros. The Mariners are just, they're breaking their streak, right? The 20 years they've been without playoff berth, and I'm predicting them they're going to make it happen in a glorious way. And that would be your Final 4 in the American League. We're just going to keep going through the American League, and then we'll switch over to the National League. So starting at the top here, we got the Yankees versus Blue Jays, and at this point, it's hard for me to say anything. They're going to be playing a best of 7, but I'm going to choose the Yankees to move on against the Blue Jays, and it's going to come down to pitching depth. The Yankees just have much stronger pitching depth than the Blue Jays, and their lineup is honestly much better. Yankees and Blue Jays played pretty close for the beginning of the season, but in this last meeting they had, the Yankees pretty much obliterated them, and I would suspect that that would be the case should these two meet in a 7-game series. Now, number 1 versus Seattle here. This would be a great series. I would be so excited to watch these two teams play because they just played this past weekend and it was a spectacular series then. So I think it's tough to say, and this is just going to be a cop-out, but I do have to give it to the Houston Astros here. I think they're the stronger overall, and when it comes to a 7-game series, they have a very strong pitching depth. They have the bats. But this is not to say if I had to bet money on how many games this series would go, I would say 7. This series is going to be one of the best in the playoffs as a whole if we have the pleasure of watching it. But I just think with the experience the Astros have, that's going to be it. We've been here before, the Yankees versus the Astros, so this is nothing out of the ordinary of what a prediction could be. And honestly, I think it's finally time, guys. It's finally time. I am going to choose the Yankees to walk out of the American League as the champions, and I don't think it's going to be a super tight series. I think the Yankees, even though they got beat up by the Astros so far this season, they've had a little bit of a struggle. I figure they're going to find a way to bring it together. I know a lot of people are talking about whether they're choking down the stretch. I think they're just taking their foot off the gas a little bit here, and we're going to see them full throttle come playoff time. And I do have them as the American League champions heading to that World Series. And guys, thank you. Let me know what your predictions are for the American League below, and then we will jump in to the National League. Ta-da, look at that. Look at that. It's just movie magic right there. So, I'm not going to go too much into it. We already talked about with the playoff format, how that's going to work, so we're just going to jump into it. Number one, pretty obvious, I think. No one else can really compete with these guys as of late. We got the LA Dodgers, best record in the MLB, and very much expected to win that division at this point. And the only team that can really catch them, in my opinion, and who I do predict to get the second round bye, because I think they're going to hold on to it because of what we've seen over them in the past couple of weeks. They had that little bit of a stretch there where they weren't going to make it, but we got the New York Mets as my number 2 division leader, who's going to get a first round bye. So that brings us to, again, we're talking about the Central as who's going to make it, and I only think one team is going to be making it out of the Central, and they've claimed this spot I think over like the past 10 days. They're on a little bit of a heater themselves. We've got the St. Louis Cardinals. I think they've gained that little bit of an edge over the Brewers, and they're going to start to make the gap a little bit larger. I think down the stretch, Cardinals have experience of winning and when it matters, and that's what we're going to see. So that's who I have as number 3. So that brings us to the wild card. This is a little bit tougher. So number 4, I guess, would be the top wild card team. And out of the 3 of them, we got the reigning World Series champions. We got the Atlanta Braves. I think this is a pretty safe bet. I'm not getting anywhere wild out of there with this prediction. They're pretty much holding that spot right now. They've been one of the hotter teams over the past couple months, pretty much coming from below 500 to on a little bit of a streak there. And they have the lineup in the rotation to really compete. Honestly, if we see anyone have a shot at taking number 2 out of here, it's going to be the Braves at this point. But it's really wide open between this. We're going to talk number 5 here. San Diego Padres. That's my prediction to finish 5th. They're chugging along right there. They made some huge trades, of course, at the trade deadline. Everyone's expecting them to really run away with it. But they've struggled since that. They've finally started to pick up some wins against the Giants these past couple days. And I don't think they have the runway to be able to make a run at the Braves. Pretty much number 1 is out of the question. They just got hammered by the Dodgers this past weekend. So that's going to be out of the question. The best they can do is 4th. But if they come 4th, then in my opinion, the Braves are going to be 5th. So either way, we're going to see a series between the Braves and the Padres, which honestly, that's going to be awesome. That's going to be an awesome series. Juan Soto getting back against a division rival. We're going to see Tatis back and all that. We're going to see Acuna. We're going to see a great series there. And in a 3-game set, we'll get to that in a second. That leads us to number 6. And the Philadelphia Phillies. I think they're going to get in. That's going to be 3 teams from the National League East. The Phillies are one of the hotter teams over the past 20 days or so. They've also had another pretty decent win streak at one point during the season. And I really like their rotation, and I like their lineup. I think they're a strong team, and I think for the most part, they're going to edge out teams like the Brewers. The Giants are just too far behind, in my opinion, of these other 6 teams to have a shot at getting in. So this is pretty much how I break down the 6 teams in the National League. Since I was so hyped to talk about it, let's talk about it. Atlanta Braves versus San Diego Padres in a 3-game series. Who you got? For me, it's going to be the Atlanta Braves. I'm going to take Atlanta to knock out the Padres, and it comes down to pitching for me. I'm just not sold on San Diego. Their pitching has just been somewhat of their struggle this season, especially the bullpen. It just hasn't been able to get it done for them. Braves, they're going to send Max Fried out for Game 1. That's going to be really tough unless they get knocked around. And sure, in a 3-game series, in that first game, if you get crushed, you're going to be behind the 8 ball. Could very well happen, but I got to make predictions. That's what I promised. That's the prediction. We go to a 3 versus 6, and this is going to be another one of those situations where I don't think the number 3 seed is as strong as the number 6 seed, and that's why I'm going to have the Phillies moving on. So we're going to see 3 National League East teams making it into the Final Four of the National League, which would be pretty amazing to watch. Just goes to show how strong this division is, and that's where we got it right there. So after that, we're going to have the Phillies and the Mets, and I don't know, I'm just probably going with the safe route here, but the Mets are going to be my pick to come out of that. I just love their pitching depth, and in a 7-game series, they're going to send out 4 studs in a row with Bassett, DeGrom, Scherzer. You know, it's just going to be lights out for the Phillies, I think, with the bats, and it won't matter because the Phillies, for the most part, pretty well known for blowing up definitely on the back end of their bullpen. So I think that will not be as close of a series, definitely over 7 games. I would expect it to go 5 or 6. Brings us to this one. It's pretty much impossible for me to pick anyone but the Dodgers. Honestly, and that's kind of foresight into what I'm going to pick next. But the Dodgers, on paper, just obliterating everyone else. Their run differential is extreme. They've been here, done that before. I know the Braves, in theory, have done that before, but seeing Freddie Freeman leave them and play for the Dodgers, I think that's just going to be a big difference. We're going to see him beyond back-to-back World Series contenders. And that brings us to the National League Championship. This is going to be a great series. The teams have met earlier in the season. The Mets actually took that, if I last recall properly. But I do think, again, the Dodgers, just the firepower. The difference in this one is going to be the bats. And that, to me, just gives the Dodgers the edge by just that little bit. So that brings us to the World Series, and that brings us to who we already talked about. We got the New York Yankees versus the LA Dodgers. This is what MLB dreamed of, right? Am I just falling into line? Am I just doing exactly what MLB.com wants me to do and predict the Yankees versus the Dodgers? Yeah, actually, they're paying me to say that. So this YouTube video is brought to you by MLB.com. They paid for everything. No, I'm just kidding, guys. I'm just kidding. This is actually what I'm predicting. And out of it all, I'm going to have to say the Dodgers are going to be your World Series champions. So I don't know why I did that. I got to keep the crown up there. Dodgers are going to be World Series champions. This is my prediction. You got the teams from the National League here. You got the American League teams here. And guys, this is it. Thank you for watching. Thank you for smashing that like button. Thank you for subscribing to all the new subscribers and all of the old subscribers. I really appreciate it because I do this for me. I do it for you guys. You guys are the guys that keep me fired up and talking about it. Otherwise, if I didn't have anyone watching, I probably wouldn't do these videos anymore, honestly. So I do appreciate every one of you guys, and we will see you guys out there. Power rankings this Sunday. Be there or be square.